my kids. Is it the form factor of the tablet that has made it so much different?
I think it is, because what's great about the tablet, especially when you're talking like the 9.5, 10-inch size, is that when you're actually staring at it, it can be a personalized experience, the equivalent of watching a big screen TV, but it's still a personal device that you can carry with you. And then it's also big enough that if you want to share it with someone else, you can.
Right.
It's a really good size, I think, that allows people to kind of feel like, often what happens is my husband and I are both watching our iPads in bed at night. We're watching different content, we're side by side, and usually with the TV on in the background too. And I think that just there's something about having that very portable, yet still having a big screen device that allows people to engage in content in a way that you can't quite on your phone, and yet that is more immediate and personal than on a big screen like a TV. And you can lean back, unlike with a laptop.
Right. Okay, so here we are in this world, right? And as you think about the content that you'd want to create as a broadcaster, working with a property, working with a client, how do you strategize for this new world? Where do you start? Do you start with, the new technology you see coming out? Do you start with fan segments? Do you start with users? Do you start with business strategy? How do you strategize? And Amy, I think I'll ask you this first.
Well, I can tell you how a lot of other people strategize, which I think is the wrong way to do things.
Okay.
They tend to think in terms of the device first.
Yeah.
So we want to have a second screen experience. We're going to have a responsive design app. And for those not familiar with that very buzzy word, basically what that has come to mean is, we're going to have an application or an app-like experience that fits the screen regardless of where the person is. But when you do that, you take the user out of the equation. The best strategy always, because you can't control the form factor and you can't control what Apple may or may not be producing, is to instead focus on the user. And so if you think instead about designing for the device, but instead designing for the user, that totally changes the strategy and the mindset. And that really then calls into question, if I'm watching a football game, right? What are the things that I'm most likely wanting to see or to look up again? If I'm at a stadium, what are the things that I'm probably going to want to do? Am I going to want to order a hot dog? Yeah, I'm probably going to want to do that. Am I going to want to send messages to my friends and have a Twitter chat in real time? I don't think so. So I think that the fundamental misstep that I see a lot of companies make is that they focus on the device or the expected business outcome, and business is still very, very important, but focusing on the user, I think is a better strategy when you're talking about multiple screens.
Yeah, again, our strategy is just serving fans. We talk about that incessantly, which is one of the reasons why we went into mobile ESPN, because we had a sense that our fans were there. That's why we were in digital 17 years ago. We knew there was something going on in terms of fan consumption. I couldn't agree more. When we think about the things that we're building and the things we're doing on air, we're thinking about the fantasy player. Right? So a football game is very different for that person. So there has to be a second experience that's actually using the information they're watching in a way that's really rich. There are some behaviors like fantasy that can fit in different shapes, but it's not a responsive design. It's making sure that the buttons,
right,
every bit of space is used in a way that helps people get what they're trying to do done. We do focus a lot on live games and live events as communal experiences. In our world, we're always either in pregame, in-game, or post-game. Fans want to know, what's going to happen, especially the bettors and the fantasy players, why something happened, in between plays, what's likely to happen next. All those things kind of inform what we put on any screen. And we actually talk more about best available screen than second screen, because we also know that this is not so much about the mobile device, it's about the mobility of our fans, because that's another real sort of fan thing. Games are 3 hours, sometimes they're 6 hours. And people generally can't sit still for 6 hours. When's the last time you sat in one place, did one thing for 6 hours? This doesn't happen. So we try to make sure that the experiences can move with people. And then once you're sitting still and you're in front of that big screen television that we're trying to jam with so much action, you have the ability to see the whole sports world. So that's really what informs how we build stuff.
Do you find that with so much user behavior sort of varying across platforms, we know more about users now, and we can strategize based on that knowledge now?
Absolutely. I know that in the work we do with the properties we work with for tennis Grand Slams, for